All right. We're all good to go. We're all live here. Let me make sure the mic's working. I'll be all good to go. Man, there's a long wait here. There we are. All right, cool. So I'm going live right now. Clearly, it's super early in the morning. I'm gonna be here for probably like 20 minutes. I got somewhere to be, but I'm playing the 2 game slate, and the reason I want to do this is because I actually like this slate far more than tomorrow's. If you're playing the big 4 gamer, which I have to assume that Bobby Sheets and or Rhodey will be talking about the 4 gamer later, or they might just do their own um, show later for the games today. I just think everybody's focusing on the 4 gamer because it's the big 4 gamer and stuff. Um, I actually really dislike that slate because I think you're forced to either play Detroit, Philly, Buffalo, or the Ravens. Like I think it's those 5 teams for the big 4 slate, or like I mean clearly like I have to imagine the plays are coming from those 5 teams. Um, and the fact that there's just so many stacked teams playing tomorrow, I just don't want to deal with that. I really don't feel like, you know, stacking the games tomorrow and then playing like time with everybody. I just don't like the 4 game slate. So um, I'm far more interested in the 2 gamer. Thank you very much, Pope. I'm super excited for NASCAR to be back here. Is game stacking for the 4 overstacking lines a bet? So I don't think so. Yet again, I'm going to be talking about the 2 gamer, but kind of what I just said there. I think Lions, Philly, Ravens, or Bills are the teams that you'd want to play on the 4 gamer. I understand the Chiefs might be, lower owned or whatever. I just don't want to mess with that 4 gamer. I just personally don't want to do that. I will say today, I mean, I'm going to be playing a ton of the Lions. I like the Lions specifically for this slate. I would just be worried about, like, I think you can more easily stack the Lions on today's slate versus if you stack them tomorrow, you're pretty much giving up. Now Gibbs is going to perform well, and let me see if what's his name, Montgomery's back. So there's like a real chance that if you stacked the Lions, right? Yeah, sure. Cook's in a really rough situation tomorrow, but there's a real chance Cook, Henry, um, Barkley, obviously, there's a real chance you would need one of their running backs in the 4 game slate, and so I think it hurts Gibbs to where you can just play Gibbs today, and he's probably going to be the highest scoring guy on today's slate. Same thing with like Brown. If you're looking at the 4 gamer, I don't know if I like Brown nearly as much. I think there's a well, yet again, Gibbs and Brown, project to probably be the highest score actually with Collins, but like the Detroit side, they have the highest total today, but like there's a real chance that like Amara is the highest scoring receiver on today's slate. But I think there's a real chance he only scores like 19 points, right? With Collins at like 18, 17 as well. Whereas like all the games tomorrow, I would expect receivers to, the highest receivers to be scored in the 20s and stuff. And so um in terms of stacking, Detroit on the 4 gamer, I would probably they would probably be my least interested team of the ones that would make the cut. I just think that 4 gamer is so messy. I really do. So let's go ahead and talk about this one here. When we're looking at this game and what I'm personally doing, as I said, I really like the Lions. Okay. And first off, what I'm trying to do here is determine what I want to do with value. Okay. Now, there's a lot of different ways we can go. If we're looking at value, kind of right off the bat, we see Dalton Schultz at 3,300 for the Houston Texans. Then obviously we have Woods, Mechie. Um, what I really like today is paying down for Hollywood Brown at 42. Now this will probably be absolute bias for me because yet again we're at the divisional round. At the end of the NFL season, I was really pushing Hollywood Brown in showdowns and whatever slates he came back to. Like I thought Hollywood Brown would end up being probably the best receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. The fact that we have him at 4,200 is like a godsend. I can't believe that. Um, I don't see how he doesn't score like at least, 10 points. I mean, he scored 9.5 and 8.6 in his 2 games. I think Hollywood Brown's a great play at 4,200. I also am interested in now yet again another piece of very heavy bias is Tim Patrick. Um, Now, yet again, I literally only played Tim Patrick in the captain, the showdown that he went up against Green Bay when he scored 22 points with 2 touchdowns. So that is probably super, super huge bias for me. But when I'm looking at values that I would want to use, it seems to me like Hollywood Brown and Tim Patrick would be the 2 guys that I want to use. Tim Patrick specifically because since it's a 2-game slate, and I think a lot of people are going to be stacking the Lions. I think him with virtually no ownership is just worth having. You play him in the Big 15, there's a real chance he comes in at like 3% ownership, right? Like that's the one play that you need to get different. I think Hollywood Brown's a phenomenal play as well. I know he's expected to come in around like 28 to probably 32%. I would probably recommend being like well over um, Hollywood Brown. Um, Today just because there's going to be a ton of people playing Worthy. I believe Kelsey is going to be the highest owned tight end today. So if I still want a piece of Kansas City, Hollywood Brown makes just a ton of sense. I'm also really interested in Pacheco. The fact that I can technically play Kansas City, who we already spread the ball out a lot anyway. And if you're stacking Mahomes, this is why Kansas City stack is quite difficult today because there's so many different ways. Obviously, the same song and dance. Oh my God, Kansas City, a lot of different ways. If you get it right, whatever. But between Pacheco, Hunt, Xavier, Hopkins, Brown, and Kelsey, we see where the ownership's going on those specific guys. So, like, if you're playing Mahomes, you're probably playing Worthy and, Kelsey. Or if you're doing one offs, it's probably Kelsey and the tight end, or it's, Xavier Worthy or whatever, or maybe Worthy. Like, the fact that I can get exposure to Kansas City at virtually, no, I guess not no, but like a significant discount compared to who's going to be owned at Kansas City with Hollywood Brown. Um, and Isaiah Pacheco, I'm really, really interested in that. Um, I'm also really concerned about how Mixon is being used. I'm really, really not liking how Mixon is being used um, on the Texans. Now he is 6,500. He is cheaper than last week, but I have real concern that we see another performance from Joe Mixon that equals like 16 to 15 points today, if not way lower. I think this is where you want to absolutely, prioritize Nico Collins from the Texan side. Um, so kind of not on purpose, but it seems like I'm going to be, drastically different than the field um, on a 2-game slate with who I'm prioritizing and stuff like that. I'm not saying Nico Collins isn't priority, but like why is Brown higher on than Nico Collins to where like there's no way in hell like Mixon is going to do anything against Kansas City, right? Like Houston is going to have to throw. They're going to be down at least 14 at some point in this game, if not more scores than that. I mean, right now, Houston's only scheduled to score 16, and we have Kansas City at 25. But I think realistically, like entering second half, we are like, or Houston's down like 2 scores, if not more, and they're just gonna have to keep throwing it. And so for that, as I said, I'm not. I think Mixon struggles, and so like by default, if I'm playing Gibbs, regardless of what David can do, that just leaves me an open slot for my running back. Uh, so like that's like, oh man, maybe I want to get different and get to Pacheco, or maybe stack both Gibbs and David. Although I don't like David coming off of the injury. I know he doesn't have injury designation, but I'm not. Well, maybe. Let me see what happens really fast. I haven't actually made lineups. I've kind of just gone through and like goofed around. And I know I'm not showing anything on the screen. I just don't really find a need. I'm just kind of here talking. But I really just want to see really fast what this ends up looking like. Yeah, I mean, you can. Yeah, I actually really like prioritizing Brown is in Hollywood, Nico Collins, and you could probably easily get to Amara, one if not both Detroit running backs, and be perfectly fine with whatever 3K guy you end up going with. That's probably where I'm gonna be today. I really like being able to stack this many people from the Lions. Like, who else would you play from like the first game, right? Like who's actually being useful from Houston? There's a real chance like Stroud struggles tremendously, um, to where not only is he not scoring well, like fantasy wise. I would look at Stroud turn the ball over at least twice today. I mean, Stroud's usually a quarterback who isn't throwing interceptions that often, but I do believe that this is probably a 2 interception type of game in Kansas City at Arrowhead. I mean, that's such a difficult matchup. So like, I think he struggles. I think Mixon struggles. I really don't want any like, if Woods is working, he's getting dump off passes like or check down passes, right? I just don't think Minshew's doing anything. Like, I think the only playable guy from the Houston side is Nico, right? So if we're working backwards or like we're moving teams to not work with, you know, I have one entry, and yet again, I'm just doing single entry today. So I just have one guy from Houston that I want. Yet again, we went through Kansas City of how wide open that is, and the fact that we can see that Xavier Worthy and Kelsey is carrying all the ownership. I would advise to, if you're interested in Kansas City, just go to the other people, unless you have money and you can afford like Kelsey or whatever. But just go to the other people. Like it's literally just two guys owned from Kansas City, and then like literally nobody else. Um, and I think Hollywood Brown is great. The guy that I've gotten wrong literally the entire year, similar to NASCAR. Like I just can never ever project Michael McDowell for anything. I have just gotten Terry McLaurin wrong just across the board, like in every game. I've played him literally in every game he's underperformed in, and then I just haven't ever had him when he's actually gone off. Um, Probably a little biased for me. I could be wrong. Like there's a real chance that he's probably the main target, or I mean, he will be the main target from uh, Daniels today. But I would just really prefer to stack the Detroit side of this game. And so, out of all the expensive wide receivers today, between Collins, Brown, and Terry, he's probably my least interested of the gang. Let's see what else. Same thing with Sam Laporta. Kind of similar to Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's had a really decent end of the year. I just literally have not played Sam at all in like any situation. Yet again, the bias towards like Tim Patrick was specifically in that Green Bay slate. Just due to pricing, like Laporta and Brown were like projected to be like the highest owned guys on that, and so like I specifically just faded Laporta in those games. So in terms of tight ends, it's probably. I mean, even Kelsey fucking struggles, dude. This is such an ugly tight end lineup. Laporta's probably going to be guaranteed for probably 8 points. I assume that's his floor. Kelsey's probably the exact same in terms of, I guess, higher. What is it? Higher ceiling. It's probably Sam, to be honest. It's going to be a real close coin flip between Sam and Kelsey. I really don't see an actual difference between the two other than the $800. I think you probably want to play one of those guys over Ertz. Like, this is not a slate where we really need value. That's why I started right off the bat of Dalton Schultz, Hollywood Brown or Tim Patrick would be the only people that I would actually use for value. I think you only need one sub like 4K guy in your lineups today, so I don't really see a need to like get cute at tight end. I mean, I know I mentioned Solch, but like, if you need value and you can't afford Laporta or Kelsey, that's where you go to. But I just don't really see a need to like save money. Like you can very easily get the most expensive. You can get where is like if you're not playing Mixon, right? You could play pretty much any running back, any combination of two running backs. You can play Nico Collins and Brown very, very easily. With that build, you can also get to either Laporta or Kelsey. Like that's just this type of slate that I'm looking at, or this is where I go. Let's see. Get the same thinking of wanting to. With my skip. I gotcha. I love playoff NFL for the fact that we have slates like every day. I hate slates that go over 2 days. Now that just could be in my little like degen brain. Like I hate esports slates that go over like 2 days. Like I just want it to be over that day, right? So like I can't sit here for 48 hours and like root for a stupid football game tomorrow. Like I'll just play the ones today. But I do believe like that's it. I think I mean I'm pretty much kind of walking you through what I'm doing on this slate. If Houston completely upsets Kansas City, I'm making absolutely zero. I just think Detroit and Washington is probably the game that you want to have more exposure to. I would be concerned if you had like nothing but like Jared Goff, Joe Mixon, Gibbs, Xavier, Kelsey, Brown, like that. I will say that's a line that's probably going to be, or like those types of builds are probably going to be really duplicated. I think if you don't play Mixon, I think you have a pretty viable shot of at least like the fork in the road of do you play Mixon, do you not play Mixon? I think if you don't play Mixon, you open yourself up to a lot more routes that lead to less duplications. To where if you're part of the 45% of the people who play Mixon today, you have him plus the expensive price tag that he has, and then you're kind of going down the same pricing ranges of other people. If you don't play Mixon, I just think that opens up so much more for your lineup with what you can do. So that's my justification for Mixon. As I said, I think Bobby Fye and Sheets and those guys, or at least one of them, will go live later today. I'll at least set that up for like 1:00. But that's my opinion on this 2-gamer. I hope it's helpful. If not, I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you guys for listening and being here, and best of luck. I'll see you guys later.